They discovered Jesus' most shocking teachings that could transform your life forever. Few knew what truly happened that night in the small town of Nazareth, hidden beneath the veil of familiar legends and whispered conversations. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting eerie shadows that danced playfully among the olive trees. Rumors buzzed through the narrow streets like insects. What might the young carpenter say next? His message reached far beyond the everyday worries of labor and harvest. A hush fell over the crowd as he stood before them, fire in his eyes. An outsider dared to question, "Who is this man? Turn water into wine. Heal the sick? How could he know our pain?" His voice rang out, drawing both the hopeful and the skeptical. "You have heard it said, an eye for an eye, but I say to you, love your enemies." Gasps echoed through the gathering. Love your enemies? What madness was this? With his hands outstretched, he painted a vivid world very different from their own. The crowd shifted, anxiety palpable in the air. Who would stand against the Roman soldiers and accept those they despised? Doubts fluttered like moths around the flame. Could such teachings ever hold weight in a world driven by retaliation and rules? People exchanged nervous glances. Murmurs rose among the throng. Some smiled, hearts fluttering with new possibilities, while others frowned, clenching their fists in disbelief. Jesus continued, his voice weaving magic and mystery. He spoke of forgiveness and grace, of a kingdom not of this earth. His words hung heavily like clouds before a storm. Would they dare to follow? Yet, amid the collected awe, a question remained, echoing in the minds of those gathered. How would they reconcile this radical love with their harsh reality of survival and hostility? What would transform them? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The murmurs in the crowd swelled. An ever-pulsing rhythm of confusion and curiosity surged through the gathered people. Some clung to their old beliefs, emboldened by the history that shaped them, while others teetered on the brink of new discoveries. That ancient conflict between tradition and transformation hung heavy in the midnight air as Jesus continued to speak. "You are the salt of the earth," he declared, his voice rising above the twilight. "But if the salt loses its flavor, how shall it be seasoned?" His words resonated deeply, creating a sense of urgency among those willing to reflect. What did flavor mean in a world where bitterness reigned? To be salt signified value, yet so many felt their worth eroding amid struggles, their hands stained with the toil of life. As the crowd shifted, some eyes glimmered with hope. Could they truly redefine their existence beyond mere survival? Jesus sensed their hesitance, the weight of their burdens pressing down upon them. And he offered a way into a new relationship with the world, an invitation to be agents of transformation in their community. With a poignant gesture, he called upon a young girl, no more than a teenager, standing timidly at the edge of the assembly. She had watched, wide-eyed, from the shadows, her heart racing beneath her worn garments. "Come forth," he beckoned. The whispers hushed, and as she hesitantly stepped into the light, his eyes softened with compassion. "What troubles your spirit, child?" The girl looked up, tears glistening like dew in the dawn. "I'm afraid, Master. Afraid of the Romans, afraid of our neighbors, afraid of the darkness that consumes us." Jesus knelt before her, placing a steady hand upon her shoulder. "Fear not, little one. Perfect love casts out fear." He turned to the crowd, eyes aflame with a passion that made the air electric. What if we could love boldly? What if we could break the chains of our fears by embracing one another, regardless of our differences? It is in unity that we find strength. That a stir moved through the gathering. Hope battled against skepticism. Some whispered among themselves, pondering how they could create such change when the realities of their lives seemed so immovable. To love the neighbor and the Roman alike, could love quell the fires of resentment? Or would it simply fuel them? The girl nodded, slowly absorbing his encouragement. For the first time, it felt like possibility dripped from the edge of despair. But how? she asked, her voice trembling but resolute. How can we love those who oppress us? Jesus stood, casting a glance over the sea of faces, some illuminated by the spark of hope, others shrouded in doubt. It begins within, he replied, fervor thrumming in his voice. When you find compassion for yourselves, when you seek to heal the wounds that scar your hearts, you will see the world anew. Love needs no justification, it simply exists. You must cultivate it. The crowd shifted once more, many now wrestling with the idea that their healing might depend on their capacity to embrace radical love. The weight of Jesus' message hung around them, fierce and demanding. They had always known the struggle. Could they dare to envision harmony? As the sky deepened into hues of night, filled with unanswered questions, one echoed louder than the rest, a haunting whisper that lingered in the souls of those present. What must we each sacrifice to embrace this extraordinary love that can transform not just individuals, but the very fabric of our community? The night deepened, the moon casting a gentle glow upon the restless crowd as they processed the weight of Jesus' words. Tension strummed through the air, a symphony of hope and doubt that danced beneath the stars. The young girl, no longer a mere shadow, stood emboldened, yet still haunted by uncertainty. Thoughts swirled in her mind. Could love indeed heal the deep wounds carved by injustice and division? Jesus, sensing the stirring within the hearts of those gathered, continued to speak, his voice steady and deep like the roots of an ancient tree. Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow, they neither toil nor spin. Yet, I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. The crowd's murmurs stilled, drawn into the vivid image painted by his words. The simplicity and beauty of creation reflected something profound, an unspoken truth of existence itself. Are you not of more value than they? He challenged, his gaze piercing through veils of self-doubt. If the Creator cares for the flowers that bloom and fade, how much more does he care for you? Look around, he gestured to the gathering, a motley assortment of faces, lined with worry and weariness, but also flickering with the sparks of resilience. See the beauty within each of you. The journey of love requires faith not merely in your neighbors, but in yourself and in the divine that guides you. An elder, stooped with age yet sharp of mind, raised his hand, the weight of years behind his question. Master, what of those who have suffered greatly, those whom the world has broken? Is it even possible for them to embrace such a love when their hearts lie shattered? Jesus met the elder's gaze with a tenderness that seemed to soften the very air. Ah, dear friend, love is a balm for the broken. It does not seek perfection, nor does it demand wholeness before it can be welcomed. A heart that has been fractured knows the deepest kind of love. It understands empathy, compassion, and the struggle of existence. The crowd listened closely, minds drifting to their own scars. Their stories were woven with grief, betrayal, and loss, yet here stood Jesus, inviting them to envision something transformative. His words became a lifeline, and gradually, the murmurs of doubt turned into tentatives of belief that a seed must die to bear fruit. He continued, in your own surrender to love, you will find strength. What do you hold that weighs you down? What must you release in order to embrace the beauty of connection? The question hung in the air like a faint breath, igniting a flicker of introspection. A young man, weary from the fight against the Roman tax collectors, whispered to those beside him, could it be that in withholding my love out of anger, I deny myself the true freedom that comes with forgiveness? And in that moment, the stir of realization took root amid the crowd. Each person carried within them a seed of potential, one that could blossom if nurtured by grace and purpose. The atmosphere crackled with the mystery of what could unfold through their unity, a tapestry woven by shared struggles and dreams. Yet even as hope began to swell, an unacknowledged darkness loomed. How would they confront the realities of their lives? Could the spirit of love extinguish the flames of fear that gripped them so tightly? As the stars twinkled overhead, the echoes of unspoken grief mingled with whispers of hope. The question that teetered on the lips of many swirled like the smoke of a burning candle. What must they confront within themselves to truly embody the transformative love Jesus so passionately preached? The crowd watched Jesus intently, their hearts caught between a flicker of hope and the weight of their burdens. He continued, love, he said, is not merely a beautiful word, but an act, the most radical act you can perform. It will embolden you to step into the fray of your fears and the unknown. A hush fell over the gathering, for the implications of his words sank deeper. The young girl, who had stepped forward to answer her own longing for acceptance, felt a tremor within her. "But Master, what if the love we give is not returned?" she asked, her voice barely more than a whisper. "What if our hearts are left unacknowledged and our efforts in vain?" Jesus regarded her with an understanding that transcended time. "That is the essence of true love," he replied. "It is a river that flows regardless of the shores it meets. Love is freely given, irrespective of its reception. Only in releasing the need for approval can its true strength blossom. Remember, as I have loved you without condition, so shall you love others." As these words unfolded, a ripple of recognition moved through the crowd. Each person felt the echo of their own hesitations reverberating against his teachings. They contemplated their own relationships, familial, platonic, and adversarial, that had borne the weight of expectations and grievances. Would the courage to love unconditionally unlock doors previously sealed with resentment? "The world seeks to burden you with division and strife," Jesus continued, his voice steady. "But love is the antidote. It is the glue that binds the broken and the bridge over the chasms that divide you. In caring for one another, you not only reveal the best in others, but kindle the spark within yourselves." That a murmur of realization swept across the crowd, igniting a flicker of rebellion against their own limitations. A woman, whose hands were worn with labor and strife, stood amidst the sea of faces and asked, "How can we find the strength to love like this, especially when we feel so small amid the powers that oppress us?" Jesus smiled gently. "The truth is, the smallest of lights can illuminate the darkest corners. Do not underestimate the power of a single act of kindness or a moment of compassion. Each drop of love you give reverberates through eternity. With every choice to forgive, to understand, or to reach out, you grow the garden of hope within the world." The elder who had previously questioned him now nodded, his brow furrowed in contemplation. "But what if our love is met with hostility or derision? What if it is spurned altogether? Will we not suffer more?" "Ah, suffering is part of the human condition," Jesus replied, his tone profound yet soothing. "But it is in suffering that you will find each other. Through trials and tribulations, you are given the chance to witness the resilience of the human spirit, a tapestry rich with tales of trials turned into tribulations of connection." His message began to settle like the dusk over the hills. There was an awakening among them, a shared understanding that love was the answer, though not the easy road. They were compelled to reflect on the love that had been tested and strained in their own lives. The young man who had whispered earlier looked up as if struck by a sudden realization. "So we must first confront the fires of our own hearts, and only then can we bring light to the lives of others." The question lingered, shimmering in the night air, unanswered yet full of promise. They were left contemplating their own burdens, the uncharted territories of their hearts filled with the possibility of love, both the giving and receiving of it. What depths of resilience would emerge if they chose vulnerability over the safety of isolation? Could they, once bonded through their scars, transform their lives and perhaps the world around them with the radical power of love? As the conversation drifted into the quiet of the evening, the shadows began to stretch across the gathering, intertwining with the warmth that lingered in the air. The crowd was still, each person entangled in their own thoughts, grappling with the potency of Jesus' words. A weighty silence enveloped them, punctuated only by the rustling leaves and the soft whisper of the night wind. Jesus turned his gaze towards the horizon, where the last rays of the sun painted the sky in hues of orange and purple. There was a tranquility in the air, a sacred pause that felt like an invitation to reflect deeper. It was in this moment of stillness that he began to speak once more, his voice gentle yet firm. "You may wonder how the love I speak of can withstand the trials life bestows. Indeed, it requires a grounding that is not of your own making." An elderly figure, someone from the fringes of the crowd, slowly made his way to Jesus, leaning heavily on his staff. "But teacher, where do we find this grounding? In the tumult of our daily lives, with burdens that weigh us down, how can we anchor ourselves in such a love?" Jesus looked into the man's weary eyes, recognizing the struggles etched upon his face. Your grounding lies not merely in striving to love, but in understanding the source from which this love flows. You are each woven into a grander tapestry, a divine design that connects you to the creator of love itself. In seeking to understand this connection, you will find strength beyond your own. The murmuring in the crowd grew. Some exchanged glances, a deep curiosity kindling within them. A woman, cloaked in the loss of a recently departed kin, took a step forward. So, the love you speak of, it is not merely a choice but an essence born of acceptance? Acceptance of loss, pain, and, ultimately, the integration of suffering into our existence. Exactly, Jesus said, nodding earnestly. Embrace the totality of your experience. The passion and the sorrow, the joy and the pain, each is a thread of the same fabric. Only when you embrace your full story can you truly embrace others in theirs. In their shadows, light may also be found. His words seemed to dissolve the barriers that many held tight. Those who had stood indifferent now felt the stirrings of empathy rise, like the first budding of spring after a long winter. A young man who bore the marks of struggle lifted his hand. But what if we are afraid? Afraid to reach out, afraid to risk our hearts in the storms of humanity? Fear is the great companion of love, Jesus replied, his eyes gleaming with understanding. Let it not bind you, but remind you of your humanity. In the face of fear, practice courage. It is often the first step taken in trembling that leads to the most profound connections. Choose to see fear not as a wall, but as a door to a deeper experience of life. As the crowd absorbed this wisdom, there was a palpable ignition of hope among them. Perhaps they had been allowing fear to dictate their choices for too long. Another voice, a young mother holding a child, chimed in hesitantly. And what of the burdens we carry? What if they feel too heavy, too impossible to manage with love's light? Every burden can be shared, Jesus encouraged, and love extends its hand to help carry the load. You are not meant to bear your crosses alone. Find fellow travelers on your journey. Share your struggles and your strengths. In unity, burden becomes lighter. Isolated suffering becomes communal healing. As the sun finally dipped below the horizon, casting the world into twilight's embrace, a profound realization began to settle upon each heart. They understood that the journey of love, even if fraught with fear and difficulty, could forge connections that transformed the essence of their existence. One voice, emboldened by the collective awakening, emerged from the crowd. In pursuing this love, are we not also signing up for pain? Might we find ourselves more vulnerable, more exposed than before? The question echoed like a solemn drum through the gathering, resonating within their collective souls. What lies at the intersection of love and vulnerability? Could their willingness to brave the storms of their own hearts be the key to unlocking an uncharted future filled with connection, hope, and meaning? As the darkness settled like a veil, the glittering stars began to emerge, twinkling above the gathering with a sense of promise. Jesus felt the weight of the crowd's emotions, their questions hanging in the cool air, a blend of curiosity and trepidation. He understood the depths of their struggle. The night had cloaked their fears but also their dreams, blurring the lines between the two. Yet there are mysteries in love that challenge even the hardiest of souls. He began, the softness of his voice cradling the frail hope in the atmosphere. When you enter into the true nature of love, you must also confront your deepest fears, fear of abandonment, of loss, even the fear of utterly giving oneself away. But know this, my friends, in this surrender lies a transformation. A ripple of disbelief swept through the crowd as they grappled with his assertion. A man of strong physique, marked by scars of past battles, stepped forward. But teacher, how can we surrender when our instincts scream at us to guard our hearts? The world has shown itself to be cruel, and we have witnessed too much pain. Is connectivity worth the risk? Jesus gazed into his earnest eyes, feeling the weight of history behind his question. The most profound lessons are often tethered to risk, he replied earnestly. Indeed, it is by laying down your defenses that you cultivate true intimacy. Only in vulnerability can healing unravel. Only in truth can love flourish. Remember the grain of wheat, not until it falls into the ground and dies does it bear fruit. The metaphor hung in the air like the scent of jasmine on a warm night, raising brows and igniting deeper contemplation among the listeners. A young woman, hesitant yet drawn by his words, ventured forth. And what if our fears bind us too tightly? If the scars of betrayal hold us back from accepting love once more? Do we not forfeit some part of our very being in that surrender? You are correct in acknowledging the scars, Jesus replied gently. But remember, healing does not erase your pain. Rather, it transforms it. Each scar is a testament to battles fought, yet they need not dictate your future. Instead, let them be markers of wisdom gained. The road toward love may feel treacherous, but avoiding it entirely leads to a barren existence. Seek to understand your fears. Allow them to teach you, rather than imprison you. Sighs of relief echoed through the gathering as they felt the pull of authenticity, a pull that beckoned them to confront their own insecurities. An older woman, her voice trembling with age and wisdom, spoke up. But how do we even begin this journey of vulnerability? Is there a path back to love when it feels so elusive? Jesus smiled, recognizing her longing. It begins with honesty, first with yourself and then with others. Acknowledge your feelings. Own your story no matter how jagged. In your truth, you will discover courage. And in courage, you invite connection. Love is not a destination, but rather a practice. One that calls you to show up as you are. As he spoke, the intimacy of their gathering felt like a sacred circle, uniting the past with the possibility of rebirth through love. Yet, there still lingered a question, heavy yet urgent. A boy from the crowd, with eyes wide as the night sky, raised his hand. But is love not also a test? What if we fail? What if we extend our hands only to be met with rejection again? With each word he spoke, Jesus held their fear tenderly, not shying away from its weight. Indeed, love involves risk. You will face rejection and grief, but you will also encounter joy and growth. Each step in this journey is a chance to reflect the light within you. The pain of fear should not deter you, but rather drive you closer to the heart of love, reminding you that true acceptance comes not from perfection, but from embrace of both light and shadow. As the stars flickered overhead, illuminating the faces of those gathered before him, a profound stillness took root. What lay ahead was uncertain, a tapestry yet to be woven with threads of love, fear, and all the experiences in between. Could they forge a new path amidst their deepest tremors? In this shared moment of vulnerability, what if embracing their stories, both the painful and joyous, was the truest form of love? Could it be the very key to unlocking the transformative experience they sought? As the cool night air whispered through the olive trees, the crowd sat in rapt attention, hearts beating as one in anticipation of Jesus' next words. The tension of their fears intertwined with the flickering light of hope that he had ignited, making every breath feel both heavy and exhilarating. For many, this night felt different. It was not merely a gathering, but a revelation waiting to unfold. Just then, the sound of rustling leaves accompanied the arrival of a figure at the fringes of the crowd. It was a man, disheveled and weary, yet his eyes revealed an ardent yearning, a thirst for truth that could not be quenched by mundane answers. "Teacher," he called out, his voice breaking through the night's tranquility. "What if we find ourselves loving someone who does not love us in return? What is to be done then? Can unreciprocated love still hold meaning? Does it not simply deepen our wounds?" Jesus turned towards him, meeting the rawness of his struggle with serene understanding. He began quietly. To love someone who does not love you back is surely a challenge, one that many have carried. But consider, my friend, love is not merely a transaction of hearts. It is a choice we make, an expression of the divine that resides within us. Love freely given holds its own beauty, regardless of what is received in return. The crowd absorbed his words, a chorus of thoughts brewing among them. A sigh escaped from the earlier young woman, as she processed the implications of his teachings. But how can one endure the ache of unreciprocated love? How can it not lead to despair? Therein lies the mystery, Jesus replied, raising his hand slightly, as if embracing the shadows beneath the stars. When love is experienced solely for the benediction of the beloved, when we focus not on our needs, but on the act of loving, it transforms our pain. We must learn to love with open hands, receiving joy from the act itself and not merely from its outcomes. This is where we discover our spirits can flourish, even when our hearts feel weighted. That a murmur of contemplation rippled through the gathering. Intrigued yet uncertain, a learned scribe stepped forth, his brow furrowed with skepticism. And yet, teacher, is it not folly to think we can escape sorrow? Attachments inevitably come with trials. When love is denied, do we not suffer profoundly? Should we not shield ourselves to avoid such anguish? Jesus regarded him with kindness. Ah, the desire to protect oneself is a natural instinct. Yet I invite you to ponder, what value is there in a heart that builds walls to avoid pain? It is through our willingness to be seen, even in our vulnerability, that we embody the essence of love. Pain can teach us, but it must not imprison us. Embrace the sorrow, let it flow through you, for only then can you witness the beauty that follows. The older woman from earlier stepped in, her weathered face a canvas of wisdom. So, dear teacher, you suggest that love becomes our utmost teacher in times of suffering? But what if we are surrounded by those who do not understand this fierce call to love? Are we to endure their scorn in silence? Your voice deserves to be heard. Jesus responded, his tone reassuring. Love is not meant to be a solitary journey. Find those who mirror your heart. Seek out community that nurtures shared vulnerability. You are never alone, as love's true power connects us in ways that often elude the sight. In this circle, you will strengthen one another, creating a fortress of hope against the winds of despair. Reflecting upon his words, the gathering was enveloped in a profound stillness, as though time had momentarily suspended its relentless march. The beauty of their collective experience interwove with the enchanting calm of the night. They all longed to decipher the guidance offered, yet uncertainty lingered like the fragrance of the blossoms weaving through the air. For each person present, a flicker of recognition began to burn. Could it be that within their pain, amid uncertainty and isolation, lay an invitation to a deeper love? Was the experience of loving rather than the outcome what called them forth into the light they so desperately sought? In the heart of that moment, as silence stretched its wings, they pondered, if love transcends mere reciprocity, what could they give of themselves that would echo through the ages, weaving an unbreakable bond of understanding among souls? As the crowd remained enwrapped in contemplation, the air grew heavier with the earnestness of their questions and the echoes of Jesus' teachings. The olive trees whispered their leaves, as if absorbing the unfolding truths. It was then that a young boy, his small frame trembling with a mixture of fear and excitement, stepped into the circle of light. His presence was a stark reminder of innocence amidst complex emotions. Teacher, he said hesitantly, eyes wide and bright, what if love seems to ask of us more than we can give? If we are called to love and forgive even those who have wronged us, how do we begin to extend kindness to those who have caused us pain? A solemn pause enveloped the space as Jesus regarded the boy, kneeling to meet his gaze. With a gentle smile, he answered, Ah, dear one, the path of love may indeed feel steep and laden with thorns. Yet, it is in our reaching beyond the hurt that we find our greatest strength. Forgiveness is not solely for those who have injured us. It is a gift we offer to free ourselves from the chains of bitterness. The boy frowned, uncertainty still written on his brow. But what of justice, teacher? How can we forgive without a sense of balance? Shouldn't wrongs be made right? Jesus leaned closer, the firelight reflecting in his eyes. Justice and mercy are not opposites. They dance together in the fabric of life. True justice begins within our hearts, where we confront our own grievances and acknowledge the pain embedded in them. In doing so, we learn the story behind the hurt, humanizing our adversaries rather than demonizing them. Your question reveals your heart's struggle, and that is where healing starts. The crowd listened intently, their own inner dialogues swirling like autumn leaves caught in a gentle breeze. The lines of their faces softened as they pondered the implications of his words. A flicker of understanding ignited within them, and a father, burdened by grief, spoke next. And what if our love reaches beyond those we hold dear? What if it extends to those we consider enemies? Is that even possible? Is it not a folly to open our hearts to those who might continue to harm us? Love, my friend, Jesus replied, is not about forgetting the past or dismissing the hurt. Rather, it is an act of bravery, a commitment to watch over one's own heart, while daring to extend empathy into the darkness. It may feel unnatural, and yet, every moment we choose love over hate, we illuminate the shadows. We may not save others, but we can illuminate our own path towards peace. That a thoughtful silence enveloped the crowd as they pondered the profound nature of this selfless love. They began to see the edges of their fears soften as Jesus' teachings took root in the fertile soil of their hearts. Another voice rose from the throng, a woman bearing the scars of prejudice, her voice trembling with hesitation yet filled with earnestness. Is it even possible to love those who have caused us deep suffering? How can we incorporate such love when it feels like a betrayal of the pain we carry? The journey is indeed fraught with obstacles, Jesus said softly. One must begin by recognizing that love does not demand the erasure of pain. Rather, it encourages us to carry our wounds with grace, transforming them into vessels that can hold compassion. Remember, love is not an erasure of the past, but a redefinition of our future. We do not forgive because we forget. We forgive because we choose to live unchained by the shadows of resentment. With every revelation, the sense of hope began to billow in the hearts of those gathered. They exchanged glances, each face telling a story of hidden anguish mixed with wild aspiration. As the stars twinkled high above them, reflecting the vastness of the universe, a burning question ignited within them. Could forging pathways of love amidst the rubble of hurt genuinely illuminate their lives? Would such courage transform not just their hearts, but also the brokenness surrounding them? As the night deepened, the atmosphere pulsed with a blend of curiosity and trepidation. The crowd shifted, their bodies leaning in, yearning to grasp the essence of what lay before them. This man, who spoke like truth itself, who illuminated their darkness with the flame of understanding. The boy, emboldened by Jesus' warm gaze, ventured another question, his voice a tender whisper. Teacher, how do we start this journey of love when our hearts feel heavy with resentment? Jesus considered the boy's earnestness, his expression softening further. My child, the beginning of love often emerges from the cracks of our deepest solitude. It is in the silences of our hearts where we earnestly confront the turmoil that lies dormant. To embark on this journey, one must first be willing to listen to oneself, to one's pain, and to the cries of those around them. Seek not to silence your heart's voice, but to understand it. The boy nodded slowly, his brow unfurrowing as he contemplated the challenge of self-examination. As the weight of the conversation hung in the air, a man named Levi, known for his prudent nature and cautious heart, spoke up. How can we possibly see beyond our own hurt if we are consumed by its gravity? Wouldn't the act of loving others be an impossibility when we are shackled by our own past wounds? It is a delicate dance, Jesus replied, his tone wise yet inviting. In learning to love, one does not dismiss or ignore their pain. Rather, they create a space for it to exist alongside their compassion. Understand this sometimes. The greatest courage is not in suppressing our feelings, but in embracing them as parts of our story. It's about letting your heart become a tapestry of both sorrow and joy. Within that duality lies the path to true connection. The words took root in the crowd, a quiet understanding sparking in the forgotten corners of their hearts. A woman then raised her hand, eyes glistening with a blend of hope and skepticism. Teacher, if we are to cultivate love in such a way, do we not risk our vulnerability? What if those we endeavor to love only deepen our pain? Vulnerability, Jesus mused, is a gift we give to both ourselves and others. It is the thread that binds us together in our shared humanity. Love with open hands, my friends, as your hands may hold, not only the potential for pain, but also the possibility of grace. To risk is to embrace the heart of existence. It is in that space of tenderness where healing springs forth, drawing light into the dark corners of your soul. That a restless murmur swept through the crowd, each heart weighed with the tension between the desire for connection and the fear of rebuke. As the stars above glimmered unwaveringly, they felt the gravity of the moment draw nearer. A father broken from betrayal from a trusted friend stood up. What if my heart is closed off? What if it feels as if love cannot infiltrate these fortified walls of disappointment? How can I open up when I fear my offering may be met with scorn once again? Building bridges of love begins with small steps, Jesus encouraged, his voice steady and comforting. Start with a smile, a kind word, a gesture of understanding. Plant seeds of goodwill in places that seem inhospitable to love. Trust that they may sprout under the right conditions. Even on the hardest days, please know that consistency and kindness can wear down the strongest defenses. Love is patient. In time, it can soften the most hardened heart. That the crowd fell into deeper contemplation, the weight of his messages shaping their reflections. The questions lingered like the scent of wild herbs on the evening breeze. Each individual felt the stirring within them, a profound yearning to transform, to heal, to build a world anew. In the silence that enveloped them, one last question bubbled forth, unspoken but resonant in the depths of their hearts. Could love, in its transformative power, truly break down the walls and help them see beyond their pain to experience a deeper connection with not just one another, but the divine itself? As the night deepened, the air heavy with questions that lingered in the unlit corners of their minds, Jesus felt the gathering draw closer, their hearts intertwined with compassion and curiosity. The flickering light of the campfire illuminated the faces, each an echo of pain, regret, and glimmers of hope. Imagine, Jesus began, his voice like a gentle wave rolling over the crowd, a tapestry woven through the threads of every heart present here, design, crafted not by perfection, but by the very act of being human. You may feel frayed and torn, yet it is through this very fragility that true beauty emerges. A young woman, her hands trembling, dared to voice her fear once more. But Master, how do we weave this tapestry together when the effects of our lives feel so divisive? When love seems to turn to bitterness, how do we mend what feels irreparable? Jesus' gaze softened as he considered her pain. Ah, sweet child, even the strongest threads are often braided from strands that have been unraveled. It is in sharing your wounds with one another that you begin the process of healing. This willingness to be vulnerable is, in itself, an act of resistance against the darkness. Let go of the belief that you must be perfect in love. Instead, let love be your guide. The people began to exchange glances, their hearts whispering of buried desires for connection and understanding. An elder among them, worn yet wise, nodded knowingly. He stepped forward and asked, "Teacher, can we truly transform our pain into love? Can our scars become pathways to understanding rather than barriers?" "Yes, dear friend," Jesus replied, a spark of passion igniting within him. "It requires a decision, a recognition that love is not defined by conditions, but by invitation. Your scars can guide you, but do not let them dictate the terms of your existence. Hold them up, let them resonate, for they bear witness to your journey. In every ache lies a story, and in every story, a lesson." The crowd felt the weight of those words settle into their bones. Hearts began to shift, understanding sparking like fireflies in the night. A quiet woman, her spirit like a flickering flame, stepped forward. "Then teach us, Master, how to carry our scars with grace. How do we begin this work of healing?" "Begin by embracing the reality of your struggles," Jesus replied with sincerity. "Acknowledge the weight of what you bear, and in that recognition, allow your heart to find compassion for yourself and for others. When you learn to sit with your pain and extend the same grace to those who have brought you harm, you cultivate a landscape ripe for healing." Love requires an openness, a willingness to extend your hand towards the imperfect journey we each must walk. The young girl who had sought solace earlier stepped forth, her eyes alive with newfound determination. "Master, does this mean we also embrace those who have wronged us? Could they be welcomed into this tapestry?" "Indeed," Jesus affirmed, his voice steady. "But know this, embracing is not synonymous with excusing. Love invites accountability and truth even amid the ashes of past hurt. Forgiveness does not rewrite the story, it builds upon it, allowing both parties the chance to learn and grow. In maintaining open hearts, we weaponize our histories not against one another, but as tools for greater understanding." Awed by the wisdom imparted, the crowd breathed in unison, a collective realization dawning. A man, steeped in inner conflict, took a step forward. "But what if we extend our love and find ourselves rejected once more? Will we not be left exposed, stripped bare by our vulnerability?" "Ah, Rejection is a part of love's journey, Jesus replied, his compassion palpable. At times, the act of loving will feel like offering a piece of your heart on a fragile plate, one that may shatter. However, every moment you choose to share love over fear, you exercise that sacred muscle of resilience. The act of loving is not contingent upon the response. It is a celebration of your spirit, your choice to shine in impotent darkness. As if ignited by his words, the atmosphere shifted, a rush of hope cascading through the gathering. They began to recognize the shimmering potential within their struggles, how their collective stories interwove, each one an intricate thread in the larger narrative. Yet an older woman raised her brow, challenging the thread of thought. And what of those who reject us wholly? How can we love those steeped in hatred or malice? Are we to swallow the bitterness served at their hands? True love is discerning, Jesus acknowledged. You are called to forge deeper connections, to release those who threaten your peace. While love recognizes the humanity in each person, it does not assert itself as a martyr. Find solace in knowing that by choosing to protect your heart, you honor the journey love has paved for you. Parting from toxicity is not unloving. It may indeed serve to crystallize your boundaries, inviting safety back into your life for love to flourish. The air crackled with understanding as the echoes of his voice settled in every heart. Each soul present found a flicker of recognition and understanding that love's power was latent within them, waiting for the acknowledgement of their pain, their responsibility, and their capacity to rise again. Each of you, in your pursuit to love, are following a path that leads to genuine transformation not only for yourselves, but for your communities. Be assured, my friends, a heart aligned with love creates waves that ripple outward, often in ways unseen and unheard. Through your challenges, through openness, you invite a spark of hope into the world, Jesus concluded, a resolute fire in his eyes. The gathering sat in hushed reverence, broken chains of doubt scattering like smoke in the wind. As the stars painted a luminous tapestry across the night sky, they recognized the truth coursing through their veins. A beautiful awakening resonated within. In that profound moment, they understood that the journey of love, as arduous and messy as it may be, was undeniably worth every breath. Each face turned toward Jesus, a covenant formed not just with words, but with hearts daring to open, daring to weave a collective tapestry that sustained the essence of hope, love, and possibility. And as Jesus prepared to part, the crowd swelled with a sense of shared purpose. They were no longer simply bearer of burdens. They stood, united as vessels of love, ready to embark on the most extraordinary journey, a journey back to each other and ultimately back to the very heart of the divine, where transformation awaited in waves of boundless grace. And so, in the quiet glow of the moonlight, a new dawn began not just for those present, but for generations yet to come, as they sowed seeds of love, compassion, and change into the fabric of their lives, forever rippling into the world beyond.